and now here they are, just like unforgettable.
Man, I've changed. Man, I've really changed over. Wait, it hasn't even been that long. This is July. I literally posted my top 10 favorite fictional franchises on July 18th, 2019, and it's September 21st, 2019. And yet, literally, it's weird. Oh, by the way, new setup. I got a new setup. I have a microphone right here, eh, which is awesome. Although, because in real life, I'm pointing in this direction, which usually the camera is flipped over. But either way, I got a new mic, or I got a mic. Hello. uh, it's a little more professional.
Especially the touchingness being the one that does know a legend.
To be honest, I kind of thought that wasn't. I mean, I honestly just thought that I stuttered way too much back, but I was kind of trying to show why I loved Avengers at that time. And this was the number 6 place, right? Yeah. I wonder. I forgot what the number 4 was.
It's always beautiful to think of that story.
Not number 4. 5. 5. Dang it.
Just make anything too well.
To be honest, this video. Alright, this is kind of taking a blast to the past. And I'm not even trying to explain a whole bunch of stuff because I have to get to the actual video. But for it, but this is kind of just like an intro segue. Get used to it because I'm going to be doing a lot of these. But this video right here, it's so weird to me how much I've changed. Although, can you tell that I forgot to put these in the trash? Well, this was just some waffles I made. Well, they're frozen. Then I put them in the toaster, put some syrup on them. Boom. Then I just had a whole. Don't judge me. I had like 1/3 of the actual bin of those apples. So now you know.
That story of your own. Number 5. Wow. Two-parter number 5.
As in. Alright, so for number 5 it was actually a tie. Dang it, another stutter. I had planned something. But when do I ever plan? Except for today. I'll explain that later in the video. This one I planned on trying to at least say it's 2 franchises in one spot, the number 5 spot. Five, either way. Yeah. Number five, Monsters Inc. slash University, and Disney Infinity. I wonder if there was ever a 4.0 for Disney Infinity. Let me just search that on YouTube. Health breakdown village. Feel. Ooh, nice. Actually, got it on past, present, future. What? Do you see this? This video right here? No, no. What? It, it's true. It's true. It's true. And it's all Iger's fault. Why? Oh my. Or is it? I, I'm not really sure. Honestly, this actually is my first reaction. I, sorry if this actually. Sorry if this actually does show another YouTube channel, but seriously, what the heck? We thought we had a really good opportunity. Wait, let me just read this. This is from Iger himself. So yeah, the new CEO of Disney. He's basically just doing a garbage job at it, and maybe this video will actually start making me hate him a little more. We thought we had a really good opportunity to launch our own product in that space. I realized it was console space, but it was also essentially a large component of it was was the Toys to Life. They call it Toys to Life business. In fact, we did quite well with the first iteration of it, and we did okay with the second iteration, but that business is a changing business, and we did not have enough confidence in the business in terms of it being stable enough to stay in it from the self perspective. That's that's okay. To be honest, I actually didn't plan this to be that long, but I didn't know anything about this. You know that you take on substantially more risk, particularly when it comes to manufacturing and managing inventory, the toy inventory of that business. He said, in fact, as Christine noted, a good part of the write-off we just announced comes from having to write off the inventory that we took responsibility for when we went into the publishing business. We just thought, no, we just feel that it's a changing space and that we're just better off at managing the risk that that business delivers by licensing instead of publishing. It's just that simple. We actually made a good product. I give the developer a lot of credit for the product that they made. It was extremely well received, but we knew going in that there would be a lot of risk with with this product, and the fact that we did so well initially gave us the confidence to continue with it. The truth of the matter is that the risks that we saw beginning when we started this caught up with it.
Actually more notably, a lot of things led to the fate of Disney. The truth of the matter is that the risks that we saw at the beginning when we started this caught up with us. So there is some more insight to the business decisions made that ultimately led to the fate of Disney Infinity, which many fans argue was the best Disney game ever released. We'll have
Yes.
more news as it develops. So what are your thoughts on Hyper's explanation? Let me know.
Well, that's it. I give up on Disney. I give up. I give up. I give up. I give up on Disney for good. But just end it all. End this video. End it off. End it off. Fine. It's fine. Since I had to lose my childhood to Disney, who actually was fine with these games before, uh, till now, who cares? Anyway, how about I at least try to make sense of it all? Put a perspective that'll actually make a good storyline that would make sense for the game to end abruptly. As in, basically, try to make sense of everything that happened by making it from an in-game perspective and what it was really about. Not trying to sound like game theory, but either way. Hey guys, it's D326 here with another video. And today, let's cover another big part of my childhood, shall we? And bring these games back to the popularity that they deserve. Also, I'm gonna be in different outfits throughout this video that I use the camera for. You think this is for creativity or organizing the video section by section, but really it's because this video took weeks to make, and I mean a little bit of creativity, but it's mostly just because it took a long time to actually get this video recorded, get the script written, and yeah, it's time I expose Disney Infinity for what its story is truly about, which is a story about a man's imagination that got cut off by him focusing on his own successes that caused him to have to forget imagination altogether. And yeah, I get your confusion, but let me explain in a bit. Oh, by the way, and this is a big part of the script, so I'm just gonna read to you story time style. This theory was worked on heavily by me, so much that there were about 10 different sources that I went through to make this theory as accurate as possible, because I loved Disney Infinity and still do to this day. But now it's over, and 4.0 was in production but got cancelled by Disney. So I wanted to make this video as me calling out to those who can bring back Disney Infinity to our lives, like the original company that made them in the first place, Avalanche Software, or the guy that created the games in this theory to begin with, Adam created. I'll explain later in this video. Because the creators put so much time and creativity into this franchise and took so many risks to make it, and it feels like a stab to my chest that it all got messed up by Disney. Also, I'm mad at IJ, like, more than before, because I feel like he was a part of why that happened. And since that was a part of my childhood, a huge part of my childhood, in fact, like literally most of the memories I have from my childhood included, well, two things, and one of them was those games, Disney Infinity franchise. So, ending off my childhood right there, right then and there in 2019, just really, really makes me want him to burn and suffer in the fiery pits of the old HE double hockey sticks. Yeah, you can tell how I feel about this franchise ending. mainly just because of nostalgia. But yeah. Well, anyway, without further ado, take it away, me who's just talking while slides appear and change because that's all the editing that I can do for now.
Alright, so I listened back to those clips and I heard that the audio was kind of worse with the mic, which I don't know how, but um I can't really change that for now, but I'll try to see if I can fix it towards the end of the video, but for right now I'm just using my headset mic. So if that's fine with everyone, let's get back onto this video. Alright, so for a refresher for anyone who's played these games or to inform you on what was going on in these games for who hasn't played them at this point, Disney Infinity was a game about connecting Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars together for many moments of fun and creativity. Disney Infinity 1.0 focused on merging Disney and Pixar together, and it was the first game in the franchise. Plus, it was different for its decision of no flight, but started its trend of sharing your custom worlds online and trying them out. Disney Infinity 2.0 focused on Marvel, plus the addition of more Disney and Pixar, and it was improved with more features such as the Sky Changer and the addition of Flight, along with skill points for the skill tree. Disney Infinity 3.0 focused on Star Wars, plus the addition of more Disney, Pixar, and Marvel, and it was improved even more, adding more little details that made the game, making you come back for more, and made new features such as battlegrounds and concept art. Alright, that should be everything you need to know about these games. So as I said before, I have about 10 different sources to share my information from. So I can prove to you that those 10 sources are the key to this theory of your imagination. Well, a real life theory that a real life game is really the figment of someone's imagination. Kind of like those two game theory episodes that MatPat did on the secret Super Smash Bros. Lore, which I highly request you watch those theories because those are the episodes that got me into thinking about other games that could have done the same. So let's start with the obvious, which is Source 1, in-game. As I said before, I don't have the portal currently, so I have to rely on the tons and tons of Disney Infinity data I found from the times that I did, so that doesn't necessarily interfere or mess with this theory. So, the best place to start off with is the way the characters appear in the games. In all three games, they appear by forming from a whirlwind of particles, kind of like Link's cooking in Breath of the Wild, but with particles and nothing instead of food and adorable Link faces. And they disappear as projections until either they get replaced with a different character, or if you're me, you replace Captain America 1, the first Captain America we got, for Captain America 2, the one we got in accident because we thought I lost the one we originally had, until I found them in the very bottom of the chest of Disney Infinity figures I had, so we just used the Winter Soldier set piece for him. Or player 2 leaves the game because you beat them every time you accidentally killed them or beat them in races to the point of anger. Funny enough, I still have these. I still have the whole entire chest filled with like a whole bunch of Disney Infinity figures and some others mixed in. So yeah. Now anyways, back to me. So anyways, there's no way this so-called portal can actually just poof these characters to life with no portals in sight, no falling out of the air, not even an animation where they're on something that brings them to that one spot. No, they just poof as if they were just created on that spot. And when the character comes off the base, what does the game replace them with again? That's right, a projection. Nice memory. This isn't like Lego Dimensions, where you can see in the main hub Vorton that they use portals to get around to different dimensions as well as in and out of the game. And they did confirm in Lego Dimensions that they were just toys coming to life through imagination because of, well, the ads for the game. And the fact that literally all of the characters come to life in that one specific room where the guy is basically just building them to life instead of actually just making the characters appear. Disney Infinity is showing you that they just pop in and out of the game via whirlwinds and projections, which implies that there's really something else going on here than just the portal. Like your imagination at play, thinking of a character for a bit and then moving on to the next. Next, let's talk about those characters, shall we? In the games, you're able to play as major characters like James P. Sullivan and Iron Man, solely because in Monsters University, he's the second most important character in the movie, second only to Mike Wazowski. And for Tony, well, in Avengers, he's an Avenger, and not just an Avenger, but also the tech genius with 4 titles in one. A genius billionaire playboy philanthropist, so that deserves something, right? But while you can play as major characters, you can't play as minor characters such as Maria Hill and Bing Bong. Maria Hill because she's more of a sidekick slash lesser known character of Marvel, and Bing Bong because, well, I'm not really sure, but it either has something to do with the fact that he got forgotten and thus disintegrated at the end of the movie, or because he wasn't part of the 5 characters who have ever been in the Mind Palace, which were fear, disgust, sadness, anger, and joy. And the Mind Palace was the main hub and level select screen for the Inside Out playlist. It could be because of popularity, which relates to supply and demand, which I'm not going to be explaining because this video is already going to be too long without the need to explain it. But I don't think that's the case either, because Bing Bong was just as popular, if not more popular, and almost as major as the other main characters of the story, especially since he's the one that helps Joy and Sadness get back to the Mind Palace and acts as the main guide of the movie. But he still isn't there. It's weird. But it would make sense for this theory if Bing Bong wasn't there because he sacrificed himself being remembered for Joy to remain as one of Riley's emotions, by hopping off of the rocket wagon so Joy could get back up to safety and out of the memory dump. So he would kinda be forgotten about by others considering that he didn't make it to the end of the movie, even though he killed himself. But hey, redemption stories are now a huge part of 2019, like from Avengers Endgame with Iron Man, and even then in 2015, like from Big Hero 6 with Baymax. So I wouldn't really be surprised if he was forgotten by most people to the point where me talking about him just sparks the memory of his death and nothing else. Now, if you look at the figures and the characters in the games, you'll see that the characters don't really appear like themselves, but instead like toys that reference moments where they talk, since in these games they just say phrases from their movies. This is similar to games like LEGO Dimensions and Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, which surprisingly enough also relate to Disney Infinity, not only from the fact that they cross over different franchises together. For LEGO Dimensions it was DC, Lord of the Rings, the LEGO Movie, and etc. For Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, it was Marvel and Capcom's different franchises, and for Disney Infinity, well, you should know by now. But it's also because both games have something that represents Disney Infinity, especially the different franchises in Disney Infinity. LEGO Dimensions has Sonic, who's been featured very frequently in Wreck-It Ralph and once in Ralph Breaks the Internet. And Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, well, add Marvel characters. Duh. Anyway, this could just be a design to appeal to kids, but no. So why would the characters appear in the games the same way they do as figures? Especially since if it wasn't imaginary, then they would look a little more like their movie equivalents, which they don't, especially Woody, who literally loses his hat more times than the amount of sheep I have to count in order to fall asleep. And that's really saying something. So our best bet is that the person imagining this franchise is either an artist or loves toys, or could just want to imagine them as something better. Now we get to one clue that seemed like something straight out of that game theory episode about connecting Doom to games like Fortnite, Kingdom Hearts, and the topic for this video, Disney Infinity. Yes, I mean the toy box. Disney Infinity has the sandbox world known as the Toy Box, which, just like in Kingdom Hearts, is a place where places can be replicated and where weapons work as they should function. Now, I know that magic is everywhere in Disney, but you know who isn't? Sora. And neither is a sign that Sora is in this game at all, or even Final Fantasy characters or any of the Heartless. So there's really nothing Sora would investigate, but since Mickey Mouse is in the game, let's just brush past it. But one thing to add is for as fictional Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars are, weapons like bombs and lightsabers are way more dangerous than what these characters can actually take. So it's already imaginary that they still survive those kinds of attacks. Like, I don't know, a bullet to the heart that can turn the song If I Didn't Have You into a possibility. Another thing to add is the way two mounds wouldn't make sense to include in the games, Archie the Scarepig and Bullseye. Archie is a pig, a scare pig, and he's adorable, but the thing is, he's adorable, but tiny and weak, so he could most likely be crushed by anyone who's stronger or bigger than Mike Wazowski by the time of Monsters University, who's actually younger and lighter than Mike Wazowski in Monsters Inc. And Bullseye is no different because all of a sudden you have a toy horse becoming a normal horse because that happens to all of the toys in the Toy Story series when they go into Disney Infinity. Doing further research, we find out that an average horse can carry up to 240 pounds. So anyone heavier than that could end up hurting Bullseye instead of gaining speed and going faster with momentum. And even if we use the strongest horse in real life, which would be the Belgian heavy draft horse, which can carry up to 2,000 pounds, he would still get hurt by Hulkbuster or even Baymax. and yet he's still able to run just fine with them. I don't know about you, but this seems either imaginary or like video game logic. Also in the games, you have the ability to enter a whole new form, called Spark Mode, which allows the player to manipulate the toy box and add, remove, and move around basically anything. And you can activate instantaneously. Okay, already, let's just cut the jibber jabber and already get onto this. Basically, you cannot even attempt to enter Spark Mode instantaneously or even at all in real life. It's impossible in real life. A being like Yoda can't become Spark of Light because us as beings simply get too overheated at over 70 degrees. Unless you live in Florida or Arizona, where you have to deal with over 100 degrees in summer. Good job. I applaud you for surviving better than us. So, when you get overheated, it's more like if you put something like a pizza into the oven and keep it there for a full hour at the highest temperature, meaning the thing will just turn to a poor pile of dust if it gets too burnt. They're unedible. Unless, of course, you're either Human Torch from Fantastic Four or imaginary. And let's just go with the latter instead of the former. Now that we're finally done with the longest source in my notes, let's move on to the other sources that have like one or so notes in it. Like Source 2, cutscenes. And I mean cutscenes from Playset Worlds and even the Hall of Heroes 1, 2, and 3. Let's start off with a simple one. In each playset world, like Monsters University and Avengers, their stories are way different from their movie counterparts. For Monsters University, instead of Mike Wazowski trying his best to be a scare and the evolution of Uzma Kappa, but most importantly, Mike and Sully, it's all about the rivalry between Monsters University and their competitors, FearTech, and how far they'll go to be the best. And for Avengers, instead of Loki planning on getting the Tesseract from S.H.I.E.L.D. ordered by Thanos and a team of heroes planning on stopping him and the Chitauri army by beating them with a bunch of action, it's about Loki taking over Earth with the help of the Frost Giants and Nick Fury giving you orders on how we can beat him, which all leads to a bigger and slower boss Frost Giant that can be hit with ease, and once you're done, Loki is apprehended and taken back to Asgard by both Heimdall and Thor. Yeah, so you can tell that both stories are different from their movie versions, and it's the same with all the others. It would make sense for the imagination to be different from the movie, because when you want a franchise you love to be even more incredible, you will normally think of a twist on the lore to make it more of a fan storyline than your imagination just making a retelling of the movie. Plus, creativity is just unstable and can make you think of new ideas all the time, which could explain the whole twists on the lore that these playsets use a lot. Now, I said playset cutscenes and Hall of Heroes cutscenes would be here, but I had this in mind and I needed to add it to this theory because why wouldn't I? The opening cutscenes in Disney Infinity's 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0 are just too easy to not explain. In 1.0, you remain in Spark mode for almost, if not all, of the cutscenes, and as you progress through, you start to notice that you are literally heading to a marker on the screen because while you move forward, reality is forming right in front of you. And this is just easy because you can't imagine something without your mind setting the stage for your imagination, which leads to a lot of empty space. Now, obviously, I'm not saying if you're more logical than creative. Your head is filled with space and void, but when you get smarter to the point where there's no room for creativity, It leaves the left side of your brain, the creative side, completely empty. Also, in 2.0 and 3.0, you end up doing kind of the same thing, but instead of watching reality unfold in front of you, you end up switching perspectives. And while you do kind of watch reality unfold in front of you, you don't do it in Spark mode. You play as many characters like Anakin Skywalker, Stitch, and Merida, and you chase the spark, which doesn't make sense, but whatever. But then, you knock the DI part of Disney Infinity 3.0 off of the logo, and the problem with it is that the fact that the actual possibility, that part of reality just falls in front of you so you can pick it up is pretty much 0% unless it's in a dream. Last thing I want to add is how the Hall of Heroes is basically just the mind showcasing the characters you know and love, which represents memory. And the other point for the Hall of Heroes goes with another source that I'll mention later on in the video. So that's it for the cutscenes, so on to more sources. Source 3. Ads/commercials. What's the point of making a game when no one actually plays it? That's why for a game, it has to have at least something big to show off it, for others to play by using ads and commercials. But what's a theory without looking into small things like those said ads and commercials for evidence? Since all commercials about these games basically follow the same formula as 1.0's commercial, I condensed them all into one note just for simplification. In the commercial for 1.0, we saw creativity or imagination at its best. If its best was to send Sully, Mr. Incredible, and Jack Sparrow to an imaginary world where enemies spawn like crazy, can manipulate reality, and the only thing they could do was fight together. But I digress. Either way, you can already tell how imaginary that is just from looking at it. So, next source. Source 4. The Voice. The voice in-game is a lot like a guide, and since guides are supposed to be used to make things easier, let's use what this voice is to make this theory easier, or at least for something better than saying Disney Infinity, the game where you can let your creativity flow, or this is the toy box, blah blah blah, 1 year later, and now you can get started. But seriously, the voice actually has some reason behind him, with the first being his main focus when talking about the games and the toy box. The voice always talks about Disney Infinity and the toy box being meant for your creativity to flourish, but I think he's wrong if he's talking about the games, because unlike LEGO Dimensions, where you can put a bunch of other characters in for fun and chaos, and even do the battle modes and mess with the figures since they're Legos, or Minecraft, where you can build with a wide spread of blocks and creations, mine and do other fun stuff that allow you to be creative, Disney Infinity can only allow 2 characters in one playset to play an actual story on the base at a time. And even in the toy box, there's a capacity to how much can be in your world, and the add-ons that you can add to your world is already made for you. And you can't even just place a single block, you have to place a full-on part of the ground. Anyways, he's definitely wrong for thinking about combining creativity with Disney Infinity, but in the imaginary world, you do need to acquire flourishing creativity, and it would make way more sense for the mind to use that creativity to make these worlds than saying choosing 1 or 2 figures to put on the base and a set piece just to see these characters in the games and stories and play in the toy box where you can't create anything. Models are basically made for you already, and you just have to use Spark Mode to place down anything that can easily fill up your world, or stories with just as much creativity as a grown-up that gave up on Disney's imagination had to make his brain just a source of intelligence for more and more paperwork is creative. So there's no actual creativity involved with Disney Infinity. I get that. But here's a better question. Who the heck is the gosh darn voice? Yeah, I get it, there's voice actors, but where in these games does the voice originate from? This was honestly a question I had even when I was able to play these games at a young age. And now, this theory confirms that it's really the person imagining it all, especially since the camera for each beginning of each game was always in a position like Lakitu helped with the camera for these games too. But that can't be. No way. Oh wait, it is. It's in their perspective. It's in someone's perspective without them being in the game. That's our voice, the Imaginator. See? We're switching perspectives here. Now here's possibly the biggest factor into all of this. Source 5. Multiverse Theory. Now, I know what you're gonna say. Why the heck would you use a theory to prove your theory? And yeah, well, this could be frowned upon by the theory community. Sorry. It still proved 2 points that support this theory. First off, each universe is actually separate from each other. So Sully can't spar with Mickey Mouse, Iron Man, and Yoda because they wouldn't even be in the same universe anymore. And before anyone asks, no, there is no multiverse. This is actually proven by the fact that not only has online theories, but even the companies themselves, Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilms, even now after they sold their companies to Disney, have always written these universes as the Disney timeline, Pixar timeline, Marvel timeline, and Star Wars timeline theories, and never crossed them to create any multiverse or universe or anything. Second, each universe isn't even a universe, actually a timeline. As I said just a few seconds ago when I was talking about the split universes, where I hinted on the fact that they're actually timelines. So Sully wouldn't even be able to see Mr. Incredible because they exist in 2 different time periods, making it almost impossible, except for the possibility of imagination or a time traveling device, but that's not even anywhere in Disney Infinity. So imagination, cue Barney moment. No? Okay. This was actually widely confirmed time and time again by the companies, and you can just look up Pixar timeline theory, and boom, you'll see that it's very obviously a timeline and not a universe. Now trust me, I can go on with the other sources, but to stop myself from typing more onto this long script, it's time I tell you who is the one with the imagination. And boy oh boy is it obvious. Just like in the game theory episode talking all about the secret SSB lore, Disney Infinity seems like it actually could connect to the creator of the first game because he was the originator, and it would make sense that he devoted his creativity to these games to support lovable franchises, so Adam Creighton would be the one. As for why the abrupt end to the franchise I knew and loved to death, it's a bit unclear inside this theory, and not in real life because we all should have heard the news that Disney cancelled the production of Disney Infinity 4.0 and ended the franchise. Flippin' Disney! But it would definitely make sense for this theory that it all ended once Adam Creighton's successes became known and he had to stay focused on his games, which meant he needed to lose the taboo-like imagination of his Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars fantasies so he could continue doing what he loved doing best, making games for people to play. Put all of this together and what do you get? Bippity boppity. We have Adam Creighton, who loves Disney, Pixar, etc., and wants to stay that way, who's confronted by the realization that Disney and Pixar were for kids to enjoy, with Marvel and Star Wars being for adults, but they're also for kids to enjoy and come back for more from them. So there wasn't much creativity left in his brain, as he was trying to fit into society as a whole as an adult. But then he creates a way of escaping reality through these games, even though it ends up, well, ending once his career starts becoming his top priority. Which really says a great and inspirational message, because as a whole, we all try to fit into society by not being ourselves, and that usually ends up hurting us because we leave no room for who we are in our brains. And we even pretend to join other groups that the real us wouldn't even join, as constant reminders to just be normal form into your head. And I have to say that since I've been there, I know that struggle, but it's okay to appreciate who you are as a person. And for those who really need this message, share this video with them. And no, I'm not saying that for views. These topics get way too serious to actually make into jokes at this point. But I hope someone can look at this video thinking it was another theory, but instead was something that was supposed to make people happy, to inspire those like others, inspire me. And in the end, isn't that a better ending to Disney Infinity as a whole than Disney canceling the plans they revealed in 2017 for us kids and kid-spirited adults and teens to continue making memories? And that's my theory on the Disney Infinity franchise. What do you think about this theory? Am I right or am I wrong? Tell me in the comments your side on this theory. And hopefully you enjoyed this video because it may not look like it, but I looked through a lot of different sources from the games themselves to guidance voice and even some sources that weren't even mentioned in this video, like the concept art, and even the internet helped a lot. So I definitely worked on this for weeks, gathering research, recording this theory, editing a lot of the voiceover recordings, trying to actually say words instead of blabbering a whole bunch of nonsense. So it would be great if you liked the video because it shows that all that work was definitely not for nothing. And also, this was the first Deary episode where I actually used notes from those different sources, along with an actual script, like literally a script right here on my phone that's like paragraphs long. Could have been like an entire book. This was the first Deary episode that actually had those different notes for different sources and an actual script to back up my reasoning for the theory itself. And honestly, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun experimenting with those types of things. So definitely look forward into more scripted theory episodes in the future. And next time I'll try and experiment with not splitting up my research into different sources and uh, different parts for each source, because that took way too long. So I'll try to do it a little more like how game theory or film theory or even Super Carlin Brothers would usually do it. So look forward to that stuff in the future. Before I end this video, I want to mention two other things. One, I know it's been over 4 years from August 30th, 2015 to today since the last Disney Infinity game, and I found the ending that would satisfy all Disney Infinity fans more than the Try Not to Get Satisfied challenge or ASMR for any of the creeps that love that kind of stuff. Uh, but can you guys please do me a favor and share this video around? Because I heard what was announced for 4.0, and they put a whole lot of effort into making this franchise. That it would mean all of existence to me if we were able to at least get others to remember what these games were about and lives, and kind of bring back the franchise again, since obviously, obviously, as someone who's played these games for the longest, it, it feels, the games feel basically like what an old cartoon for me would be in 2012 TMNT, or even the 1987 TMNT, because I did watch that when I was like in third grade. They make these three games just make me feel nostalgic just thinking about them. And it would be amazing if someone could just, if a company could just have a company or the same company just have them bring it back in a new modern style, I guess. It would be great. It would be great for all of us who love these video games from the beginning. Two, if you like this episode of Deeries, then thank you. I've actually been working on this series for the longest, and this one episode took weeks to make. So it's been a lot, from learning how to use the editing software um, to stuff like actually working on like many topics for these theories. And yeah, it's been tough, but it's also been fun. And at the end of the day, this channel was literally made for me to basically have fun. If fun would be like weeks of recording my voice and myself, just like for many reasons. But either way, it's been fun. And if you like this series, then thanks. It's been a wild ride, but it's also been a great ride. Anyways, I'm done. I'm done with this video, and I'm done typing more onto the script and editing the script as we go. So next video, I'll be bringing back a trend that I've started a long time ago, and thought was fun enough to bring back.
If you like this video and want to watch something else on my channel, well, you're in luck. On the top left is a video that was recommended by YouTube. Yay! And on the bottom left is a playlist of all the videos I've done on this channel so far. And on the right is where you can subscribe and hit the bell button so you're notified when my weird behind makes a video. You can also like this video and comment more ideas that I should do next. That's it from me, so I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!